Bank coming at number 9. We have Will Mallory. Coach Steve has him outside his top 10, unfortunately. Our coveted guests have him inside his top 10. Dan has him 8th. Brian has him 9th. So Coach Steve has some explaining to do. Dan, give me some tidbits on Mallory. What's he good at? What's he bad at?
Yeah, so Mallory, I saw at the Senior Bowl, and that kind of was the first time I've got, turned on to him. I saw some really nice catches in a couple of the drills. So at that point, I went back to my Airbnb, started diving into the tape, started looking at his numbers, and Miami has a pretty good history at the tight end position. If you look at some of the prospects that have come out of there, Jeremy Shockey, Kellen Winslow, David Njoku, it's in running for tight end with Iowa and some other schools. So I saw enough highlights at the Senior Bowl that I went back and I watched the tape, and he is a asset in the passing game, which we like to see. And he's also fast. I mean, look at that 40 time. It's the fastest one we've seen so far. So he is on the smaller side. He's only 239 pounds and 6 foot, which, this whole 2023 draft class, that seems to be the theme for all these prospects is tiny. But Will Mallory, he has the potential to be a difference maker for your fantasy team, which is, as we're going down the list, it's probably the first player that I've said that so far for.
Oh, wow. Okay, Brian.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Dan said about the athleticism. At the combine, he looked good also in the gauntlet. When we think about these tight ends skewing smaller than maybe some past tight ends, I think part of that is just the evolution of the position. And in the NFL, they're using more of tandems, where they'll have more of a receiving threat and then more a guy who's more of the blocking guy. And we're seeing that, I think, show up in this class. And Mallory is evidence of that, with being only 6'4" and 239. Also, like a lot of tight ends, just coincidentally in this class, he skews a little older. He'll be 24 in June. So that's something to keep an eye on, especially at a position that takes a little while to develop. But I think, if we're thinking about fantasy, we want these guys to run routes, and catch passes. And Mallory's got a chance to be that type of, big slot tight end that the NFL is using now to run those routes and catch those passes. And so, certainly athleticism can translate, and we hope he gets, good draft capital and landing spot.
Coach Steve, so you're telling me like guys with 4.8s and 4.9s over the 4.5?
Yeah, obviously the speed is fantastic. Obviously, a 4.5 is really, really good. It's just that, his ability to run fast and what I was able to watch on film about him just doesn't mix. He wasn't a good route runner from what I saw on film. I didn't like what I saw in his route running. I think that needs to be cleaned up a lot still. As a guy who's fast and doesn't seem to be able to get separation, that was something as a receiving skill set that I did not like in his game while watching film on him overall. To me, I feel like he's really raw and he needs to develop more to really take that next step. I didn't find too many fantastic traits outside of his speed that really works. Like, he probably need to be someone that needs to develop over time. I'm trying to think of a guy who was kind of underdeveloped and had that speed to him. I can't think of off the top of my head, but he just was somebody that I just thought was raw and needs more time to really develop. And I feel like he isn't going to be a guy that plays early on in his career. It's going to be more of like a 2-3 year window where he really gets an opportunity to shine, where I think some of the other guys I mentioned before have more of a skill set to start right away more often than compared to what Mallory can.
Okay, I do see some of your